We'll see who's going to be on the play here. Looks like Carver picked up a draw round 1, so now surprising to see.
Well, Carver's deck is actually a little on the slow side. It does go all the way up to Elspeth Sun's Champion. 2 copies of Nykthos as well, so a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
Hollow Fountain begin here for Carver. Lebedowicz doesn't know what he's up against just yet. He's going to start with a Fire Drinker Seder before passing the turn back over to Carver. We'll see if it's a Precinct Captain. It is not, so a slow start here for Carver. As Lebedowicz going to come in here for 2. This is a Deputy of Acquittals. That's going to jump in the way. Osyp says, I have a Rebel Belt Maka for your block. So get that thing off the table, even though I will take a little bit of damage. I want to keep that board clear.
For sure. There's not a lot of cheap stuff in the deck here. 2 Keying Apparitions. The deputies you just saw, Precinct Captain, Soldier of the Pantheon. So a little on the slower side.
Lebedowicz with only 1 land right now. He's going to come in yet again for 2 points of damage. Again, this is a deck that only has 17 lands. If you're able to draw 2 or 3, you're in really good shape, as there's a Fire Drinker Seder.
And I really enjoy watching this because I can tell that Osyp does not like playing decks like this. And the fact that he stalled on 1 lands with these, like, you know, not very powerful looking cards in play is definitely upsetting him.
Going to play a Shock to get that EF Skynet out of the way. And a Brave the Elements is going to blow that one out, so no good attacks here for Lebedowicz. Carver going to take a draw here. Looks like he may be flooding out a little bit. This is 5-man. Okay, he's doing a little bit better now. And Lebedowicz is going to say, that is enough for me, and picks things up very quickly. So,
I could tell with the body language when he played the Foundry Street Denizen that he's just could not believe what he had done to himself. And onto the sideboard.
Picking it up very, very quickly is our broadcast partner. Not a game here to Daniel Carver playing White Blue Aggro. We will go to the sideboard. I'm taking a look at 4 Skull Cracks, 3 Searing Blood, 3 copies of Eidolon of the Great Revel, 2 Magma Spray, 2 Peak Eruption, and a Seismic Stomp. You gotta love Searing Blood here.
Searing Blood's great. You saw Deputy of Acquittals, and you have Sky Knight. You can assume other stuff's going on there as well. I think the 2 Magma Sprays might also come in too. The Deputy of Acquittals having more instants to play against that thing is pretty good.
On Carver's side?
2 Keying Apparition, a Glare of Heresy, a Godsend, 2 copies of Celestial Flare, 2 Banishing Priest, 3 Fiend Slayer Paladin, 2 Negate, 2 Dry Melton. I like Fiend Slayer Paladin, and I think Dry Melton's not great, but still good enough to bring in. I would probably cut some of the gods. They're a little bit on the slower side. If Daniel loses, it's likely to be drawing too many cumbersome cards, and the gods are unlikely to impact the board very much.
Well, for Lebedowicz, there are definitely some cards here that are pretty scary. You mentioned Precinct Captain and Bramaz. Those are much lower to the ground, but Archangel of Thune, if that shows up, that's going to do it. And you saw him concede right away, knowing he couldn't beat that one.
Well, he had only 1 land in play, no way to kill it, and, you know, it is a tough card for this deck to beat.
If you're able to draw 2 or 3 lands with this deck, that's when the deck really gets scary. You have access to Madcap skills, multiple spells in 1 turn, activations on Fire Drinker Seder. You know, this deck actually does pretty good when it's flooding out because it has actually ways to use its mana.
There are sinks. I mean, you don't have sinks as good as Mutavault, but you still have sinks. I think Eidolon might come in as well. I think Daniel showed enough. He's definitely a control-ish deck, but he showed enough 2 and 3 mana spells where I think Eidolon could be very good against him.
So we'll see what happens here in game number 2. I think the difficult part here, Lebedowicz, is if he does win this one, game number 3 will be on the draw, and that seems like a pretty tough spot to be in.
Yes, especially against some of the cards that Daniel showed.
Yeah, and they looked like they were pretty good. We don't see this white-based strategy that often anymore. It's something that we saw previously, I feel like earlier this year, but mostly last year, we saw people trying, you know, white-based aggressive decks with Brave the Elements because the card's so powerful, but haven't really latched on.
The biggest advocate for this deck, you know, there's 2 that come to mind, Ben Lundquist and Pat Cox. They did the majority of the work, at least in the United States, on it. Ben Lundquist winning the Los Angeles Open, and Pat Cox really being the force behind the Orzhov list that Ben Stark used to top 4 Grand Prix Detroit, I want to say. But besides that, there haven't been a lot of advocates for the deck. Brave the Elements is still insanely powerful. I mean, that card's one of the better things to be doing in Standard. The deck building cost is very high, of course, but it is as good as it gets.
Well, as we do shuffle up here for game number 2, we will watch Boss Sly in action yet again. Tom Ross able to win the Season 2 Invitational, punch his ticket to the Players' Championship, along with Brian Brown to win, Chris Van Meter, and Derek Sheets. So 4 down, 12 to go.
Yeah. I love watching Osyp playing decks like this because he's, you know, 1 land in play, obviously a 17 land deck, that's going to happen a lot. These not very powerful cards in play. Opponent just making land drops and casting stuff and winning pretty easily. And you can tell the thought is, what am I doing? Because Osyp does not like to play decks like this.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like this is the kind of style of deck he likes to play.
He said that he wanted to play it. He was going to play it this week for sure. And the fact that even before Tom won the Invitational, the fact that Tom won the Invitational is very bad for Osyp. You can see him right now squaring off against mid-deck Archangel, Thune, Fiendslayer, Paladin in the sideboard, Vermaz main deck. So that was bad for him, and he said as much. He knew that people were going to be better prepared for it, but he was planning on playing this the whole time.
It's a bold choice. It doesn't seem like a deck that can slog through hate very well. If people are going underprepared, which you can expect in the Invitational metagame, because those are a little bit more predictable, I think, than our Open Series metagames, that's a really good choice, as we saw last week, and Tom destroyed everyone he played against.
Ratchet Bomb, Drown in Sorrow, Anger of the Gods, Fiendslayer, Paladin, Boros Reckoner.
Farika's Cure.
Farika's Cure.
Yeah.
Farika's Cure less so. I think Tom's deck can power through that, but the cheap sweepers or the 3-mana creatures that are just really hard for him to slog through. Fiendslayer Paladin isn't even necessarily the end of the world because the deck has enough pump spells to just slog through it. Boros Reckoner is a nightmare.
Doesn't sound like fun to play, I'll tell you that much.
It's guaranteed 2 for 1 pretty much, and some games it's going to be even better than that.
Yeah, we haven't seen Boros Reckoner much.
No.
Gotta say that.
Part of the reason that I would have dusted off Red Devotion this weekend if I was playing. I think it's not a bad Reckoner metagame.
Pretty well situated at this point. So we will see both players begin here in just a moment. Again, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, StarCityGames.com Open Series here in Las Vegas, Nevada. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGVEGAS for your tweets all weekend long. We're in round 2 of 10 of our Standard Open. And of course, we got Legacy Open to bring to you guys tomorrow. So it's going to be a fun-filled weekend here in Vegas, but they're always fun when we're here.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Osyp with the eyeball roll as he mulligans his no-land hand.
Very quickly. Hey, that's all part of it. You're going to have to take some mulligans here as you go. See him taking in good strides here, of course. But Tom's win was very, very impressive last weekend.
It was. You know, the elimination rounds were over so fast. He went 9-1 on the draw for most of the games. He did lose a game to Ben Friedman.
Yep.
In his 3-game set against Alex Bernstein, I believe one of the games looked kind of competitive, and the other games were just a breeze.
They were laughers.
They were all laughers. All 3 of his games against Brad Nelson in the quarters. The 3 games that he won against Ben Friedman. There was one, I guess game 4 was semi-competitive, but I'm stretching. I mean, Tom blew through the elimination rounds.
And because he was able to do that, of course, he does have his brand new token. You see Carver wearing a Team Infect shirt. He's probably going to want one of these. Tom Ross's brand new Poison Counter will be available beginning in July at our Baltimore Open, July 17th through the 19th weekend. Pretty sweet looking token.
It is an uncanny resemblance. And the Poison theme is just so sweet.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. Of course, Tom, a huge advocate of Infect in multiple formats. Loves the deck in Legacy and Modern, so it's rather fitting they're able to put a Poison Counter together. This is what Tom wanted. We thought for a little while he would want a Chrono Crusader token, and he said, I kind of do, but can we do a Poison Counter instead? And we said, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it came out great. Looks like Carver going to take a mulligan down to 5 here.
I think some of the annoyance that Osyp is having over the deck is probably also the awareness that I am making fun of him.
You have to imagine that's the case, yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be on the back of the mind too. Mm-hmm. You know, that's part of this as well.
Just good friends, but you have all the power in this situation.
I do, yes. Yeah, we go way back.
20 years by now, or is that a little long?
A little long, but I think we probably started playing together in 1999, I would think.
Goodness.
98 maybe. It's been a while.
A Chrono Crusader to start things off here for Lebedowicz. Carver with a plane, simply going to pass the turn back over to Osyp. Going to take a draw, attack here for 1. Does he have a second land is the question. No follow-up play either. Wow. Temple of Enlightenment here from Carver.
I love it.
Top card going to go to the bottom. Lebedowicz going to draw a card. You see Carver does have a copy of Vermaz. This is a follow-up. This will be an attack here for 3. Carver going to go down to 16. The big question here is, can Lebedowicz actually beat Vermaz in this situation? It's a card that doesn't get a lot of play, but it's in play right now. He takes a look at his hand. I think there might be 2 shocks there. Looks like he's going to need to peel a mountain maybe to get himself out of this one. Takes a draw. It's a Foundry Street Denizen. In comes Ash's Zealot, potentially.
It looks like Osyp has brought in Skullcrack in this matchup, which I'm not a fan of.
I don't love it either.
Yeah. You got to imagine Carver's deck is much better at playing to the board here than the type of decks you typically bring Skullcrack in against.
Lebedowicz hoping he was able to draw a land there. He's going to just play a Foundry Street Denizen and pass the turn back. Carver going to take a draw. It's a copy of a Far. You see there's Nykthos in his hand. Also has a Mutavault as well. So he's got lands to play. Doesn't have a ton of spells, but does have lands to play. This is 3 mana. That is a Path of Bravery. Wow. We don't see that one very much. We'll take a look at it here. I'll let you guys do the same. We haven't seen Path of Bravery for some time, but this seems like a tough card to beat as well. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, you gain life equal to the number of attacking creatures. So Carver's going to go up to 16, and as long as your life total is higher than your starting life total, which of course is 20, creatures get +1/+1. So no bonus yet, but gaining life is actually the thing that matters the most here.
2 copies in Daniel's list here.
Yeah. Lebedowicz will untap after trading off his Recurrent Crusader with the token. Draws and Mountain. So let's see if he's able to fire off here with the Searing Blood and the Shock to get this thing out of the way.
He's got to be worried about the possibility of Brave the Elements here, but
I think in this situation, that's not even a card that you can beat, however. Perhaps I'm wrong in my assessment, but I think if the opponent has Brave the Elements anyway, I think you're just roasted.
Well, he may get a safer attack here where he attacks. Let's say Daniel blocks, he can let first strike damage resolve, then Searing Blood, and then if there's a Brave, he can shock and respond.
Sure.
I think he would prefer to do that, but now his hand is somewhat forced, and he may just have to give this a shot.
Yeah, I don't think he's in love with the fact that he has to probably use these 2 spells to get the job done, but I don't think he really has much of a choice. He's going to keep waiting, however. Carver draws a card, copy Detention Sphere. Carver going to play Nykthos. Does have blue mana at the ready. Looks like he's going to cast a D-Sphere here. However, the tapping is a little bit dubious. This means that the green light is on.
Yeah, now Osyp has an opportunity to kill this Brewmass, and that's a huge swing.
And the question here, of course, is does Lebedowicz, oddly enough to say, make sure that he knows that Path of Bravery isn't providing a bonus right now.
Yeah.
That's the big thing here. So Ash Zealot's going to bite the dust. Mutavault's going to go in, and Osyp says, you don't get to attack just yet. I'm going to shock here, follow up with a Searing Blood as well. So Brewmass is off the table. You're going to have taking 3, Mr. Carver. And now if Mutavault would like to attack, he can.
But even still, this is a tough spot for Osyp. He has survived the first challenge here, which is getting the Brewmass off the table, but the pacing of the game is not going that well for Osyp.
And there is Searing Blood. You saw the Mutavault get tapped there. Here's a Fire Drinker, so they're going to trigger that, going to come in for 2 with the Denizen. Lebedowicz not with much of a follow-up at this point, it looks like. All he can do is pass the turn back, hoping that Carver doesn't do anything too deadly, but it was a good draw there from Carver. Able to find a copy of Fiendslayer Paladin.
This is the type of card that, Osyp can answer basically through pump spells, but every little piece of life that he gains here is just making it harder and harder for Osyp to close the door.
And it's not a deck that really slogs through life gain very well. Rebel Belt Maka, the big draw here for Lebedowicz if he can find one. You saw him pick up a copy of Rakdos Cackler. Looks like he's going to deploy that. See if any interest in unleashing here. Looks like maybe not. So it looks like maybe it's time to drop in a Far here if you're Carver.
It's not a bad spot. I believe we have sufficient devotion here.
Yeah, you count the sphere.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, it looks to be 7, oddly enough. You don't see a Far turned on very often, but you throw the Detention Sphere in the mix, and the God of Polis is actually on.
And this is a really stable thing. Osyp can't blow up enchantments. You have a Fiendslayer Paladin that probably can't be killed.
Seems like a rough road ahead here. See Carver with a Hollow Fountain before passing the turn back over to Lebedowicz.
Although Osyp may be getting close to he has Skullcrack in hand, plus his Seismic Stomp. He may be able to squeeze this one out, but it's got to be real soon because
yeah, there's not much time to wait here.
Yeah. If that Path of Bravery starts triggering, Osyp's not going to be able to catch up, or it's going to be very challenging too.
A Temple of Lightman, the draw there for Carver. You got a Scry. See if there's any attacks here for the white-blue player. Yeah, looks like there will be. So an attack here for 6. Gonna trigger the Path of Bravery, gain a life. And we'll see what happens here. It looks like Lebedowicz may have some interest in maybe slowing this down, or at least attempting to. Skullcrack, of course, could stop the life gain trigger.
Yes.
From the path. we'll see. Skullcrack doesn't seem like it's at its best in this matchup, but it might be okay right now. So yeah, with the trigger on, it'll be time to Skullcrack. So no life gain there for Carver. Lebedowicz trying to figure out if there's a way he can finish things off here. He'll take a draw. A Madcap skills doesn't seem so bad.
Well, I think a land would have gotten it done there because he has the Seismic Stomp plus a Madcap skills.
I think all he can do at this point is just put the skills on something. And it looks like this may have been unleashed. I don't think that it was, but it looks like both players do agree that it was unleashed. There was just no die on that. So Madcap skills gonna go on something. Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, they agreed that it was unleashed. There just wasn't a die on there, so no confusion there. Madcap skills gonna be on the Cackler. It looks like there is not a good attack to be made, so just passing of the turn. Setting up a big Seismic Stomp turn, and here's a Deputy of Acquittals. And of course, Deputy is a you may, so no interest there. And it looks like Carver may have drawn an Archangel of Thune. And that may make this one difficult to win. Have you ever seen the Archangel of Thune Path of Bravery?
I have not seen this before.
So as long as Carver remembers his triggers, and he does, a bunch of counters are going on creatures now. Everybody's going to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. And I don't know if this is something that Lebedowicz can overcome.
At this point, yeah, Seismic Stomp's basically cut off.
Yeah.
It's tough. Although Seismic Stomp plus Madcap skills, a land still might be live here.
Yeah,
So you can Madcap skill something else.
Yep.
Then cast Seismic Stomp. There's no blocks to be had.
Yep. I think Lebedowicz deciding if he can afford to take this damage or if he can block. Blocking with Fire Turn Crusader's not the best place to be.
Kind of doesn't matter. I think Osyp's on draw a land or bust here.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The combination of two cards I did not expect to announce this weekend, Seismic Stomp and Madcap skills, looks like they may be lethal.
And if these effects were on Daniel's radar, I think he should have been attacking differently, where he should be attacking with his Fiendslayer Paladin. He needs to make sure he's gained the life, because there's no guarantee his creatures can block on the way back.
Oh, there's your block. Lebedowicz trying to buy himself one more turn, so let's see if he can find what he's looking for. Looks like it only needs to be a land. There's not many of those in the deck. It's a slow peel. Looks like he drew a copy of Magma Spray.
Yeah, I think Daniel, if he was a little more aggressive attacking with Fiendslayer Paladin in this game, could have definitely closed off every door, but instead left himself susceptible to Osyp drawing a land here, but Osyp unable to find it.
Another Deputy is going to bounce that Deputy.
Ooh, combo.
It is a combo deck. Carver going to draw a card. Of course, Afara triggering there. That's why you see a couple cards added. There's a Temple. Top card going to go to the bottom here for Carver.
And Daniel definitely looks like a lot of his deck is a response to Tom's win.
It feels that way, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's Lebedowicz is going to extend the hand. Daniel Carver going to win this match over Osyp Lebedowicz. 2-0, white-blue aggro, defeating Boss Sly, and looked to be a very favorable one for the white-blue deck.
Although Osyp became very close to pulling that one out. I mean, that, you know, with a land there, he's actually got it there in that second game, although Daniel did mulligan to 5 in fairness. Yeah,
and that's how good I think the matchup is for Carver, where he mulliganed to 5, and the game was always a game, and it actually required Lebedowicz to top deck to actually win the game. So you can imagine, as you said, this seems to be a response to what happened in the Invitational with Tom Ross winning, and of course Festus Resendez, winning the Standard Open.
I think that Daniel's list is much better against Festus's list because cards like Afara can still be good against some of the more mid-rangey red beatdown decks.
I agree.
Against a deck like Tom, I don't think those cards are very good. You saw Afara do some work there, but that was because Osyp mulliganing kind of didn't have a lot of action, missed some land drops and so forth. But overall, I think his list is definitely good across the board against most versions of red aggro that you're going to see.